Hi. So I threw this earlier, just something to put sugar in or flour, and I've left a nice little ledge here for a lid. And then I threw this lid. It's a right side up lid. It was thrown right side up. And unfortunately, the audio cut out when I was doing this. So I'm going to show you how to do this again. And hopefully this time you'll hear me. All right, here we go. I'm going to cone this up a little bit since it's a small amount of clay. And when I cone, I still lock my elbow in and I still push with my body. I just give a little bit of pressure the other way. When most people cone, they sit like this. And that uses chest muscle. That uses upper back muscle. And a lot of people get sore when they're throwing, or perhaps they're just not strong enough to be able to really cone well that way. And if that's the case, then you can simply lock in and then push. And I'm kind of scooping under, bringing it up. And then once it's taller, if I just push it forward and fold it back down. Let's do it again, but we're pretty much there. And again, the way I normally center looks more like this. This is what you're used to seeing, where I push with my body and then I drive it back down. And I grab my thumb to connect my hands. Okay, so the first step to making this lid was, of course, making the piece itself. And then we need to measure it. So I drop this end in the calipers and I just open it out until I'm resting well on the ledge. Now this side is set to be the same as this. And just taking a peek, I'm already quite close. It's just slightly wide, which is pretty ideal actually. So I think I'm going to leave it right about there. We will dial it into perfection later. And actually, let me show you this. Let's do it a little different. Let's narrow it a bit. Let's say that I centered and I need to come out a little bit farther. How would I approach that? What I would do is take my hand towards the edge and push down. And I'm using this hand to force the clay down onto the bat so that it doesn't fold over. Anytime that you get under your clay, you create sort of this mushroom effect. You need to roll your palm over. But likewise, anytime you need to push down to make things wider, you need to force the clay into your hand to push it down so it doesn't fold over. Same concept. We're just keeping that pressure on the outer edge. Okay, let's see where we're at now. And again, I'm guessing quite well today. Now I have actually way too much clay for what I'm going to do. So let's get rid of some. Now I have a couple options here. If you haven't done these and you're not real comfortable doing it the way I'm going to show you in a second, you could simply do this. Just using your pinky, a little bit of water, you could keep pushing until you created a knob, and you could call it good. That's one way to do it. I'm going to show you the more advanced way. I'm going to bring this back in like it never even happened. check this again since I've just played with it. Now, I never want to be too narrow when I make a lid, but it's okay to be a little bit wide because remember that we can trim that away later. And at the very end, I can take a stick and just trim it right off the edge. Okay. So here's my starting point. Outer edge is pretty well set. I'm going to add a little bit of water. And I'm going to go ahead and open. But I'm going to take my finger all the way down to the bat. So I've just hit the bat. Now I'm going to put a little bit of water on the inside. And I'm going to roll my finger back towards me. And what I want to do is I want to drag it along the bat so that I undercut the clay as I go. And you can see what happens shape-wise. I've rolled my finger all the way back, so now there's nothing touching the bat except for this outer, probably inch or so. Everything else has been undercut. And you could see how that rounded this out. Immediately it started that shape. Now I'm going to use one finger on the inside, knuckle on the outside, and I'm just going to do a raise, just like it was any other pot. Hot, humid Florida day. Lots of bugs singing today, huh? All right. So I've got this nice cylinder. That is going to turn into my lid. Now, shape-wise, I have to decide what I want to do. If I can't reach in, by the way, I can always pull this out. It can go back in later to get a finger in. And now I'm going to lift and create just a little bit of rise here, a little bit of a belly. There we go. And then just like if this was a tall pot, I'll just roll over this to bring that in. Now this, I don't want this laid out that far, so I'm going to bring it back. I may have to cut a little bit more of that off here in a second. I've still got way too much. I'll have to think of a creative way to use it if I'm going to keep it. But all I did there was collar, 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 and I always use second finger and thumb. I like to keep the first finger free to rise up. Boy, those bugs are loud today, aren't they? Wow. They love it when it gets hot and humid and it feels like it's going to rain at some point this afternoon. They start singing. Let's bring this up. Let's add a little water and bring it in. And again, way more clay than I need here. I'm going to use a metal rib now. Come back. Let's round this out. And I'm going to undercut it just a little bit on that edge. And I think I'm going to bring this across just to create just a little bit more shape here. Good. Okay. Now if I wanted to do a very ornamental jar to hold a little sugar or flour or whatever, cinnamon, then I could leave this tall at the top and I could come up into a point simply by collaring. And I would just keep doing this until I closed it off completely. Now, because this is a, just a canister, I don't think we need all this. But if you were doing something for a decorative purpose, then you might want to add detail simply by coming back and coloring, rounding out, and carving away. But let's get rid of that and let's do something a little bit more functional. I'm just going to cut this off. Square the top. I'm going to bring all this back in. Get a finger on the inside. Just do a little raise through here, really a gentle raise. There we go. Going to roll the top over. And all I did there was take my finger and just roll it over the edge. And now I'm going to squeeze in. I'm going to do that little bit of collaring again. And just keep your hands wet enough that they don't stick. Now this is closed completely at this point. And now I'm just focused on whatever shape I want to make. And if you want a flat knob, you can simply push down. You could cut away underneath to give you that sort of flat knob. Now I kind of have a little spindle shape going here. I can keep my spindle and I can really come in if I want. Good, let's do a different one. Let's cut this off again. And let's do your classic round knob. So I cut underneath it a little bit with the corner of this tool, just by pushing the tool in. There we go. And I need to get my finger inside on this one, so I got to get it to open back up. There we go. And now I'm going to roll my finger back. So I'm just slightly pushing out. There we go. I just needed a little bit of belly there, so I just pushed it out. Now I'll come back. And I know this is probably bothering some of you. Cut, cut, cut. We can wait to do that, but if you feel like you need to right there, that's okay. You can go ahead and get rid of it. Okay. So here we are. We've got a nice round top. Any little imperfections from closing something off, sometimes you get these little ripples. Don't let those get you too excited, because when you trim, you will take all of those away and you'll just make it perfect. So there's lots of time to fix that. We have a tendency, particularly when we're newer, I think, to feel like the pot has to be perfect when you leave it. And it doesn't. The goal is to make a beautiful piece. You don't need to throw it to perfection. You can combine throwing with trimming. I could even wait an hour from now and come back, and this piece would have stiffened. In this heat, definitely it would have stiffened quite a bit. And I could play with it some more. I could change it a little bit if I wanted to. It would be a lot stronger. I could take a little bit more clay off. Or I could wait until tomorrow morning when I come out. I always trim first thing in the morning. It's the very first thing I do. Have a little coffee and do a little trimming. And at that point, I could easily trim any imperfections out. And I could also trim in a little bit more pizzazz if I wanted to. And here I'm just changing this just so you can see how easy it is to change that shape a little bit. Now the final thing I need to do is check this again. Okay, so I ended up wider now, and that's okay because that's so easy to take off. And that's assuming, of course, that I can find my pointed stick, which is probably somewhere right here. Okay, normally I would just use the pointed stick to drag it off. But as I have misplaced it once again, I'm going to use this instead. Same idea. I just cut that edge into it, and then I rotate it out slightly. Now I'm all the way down to the bat. It's already free. There we go. Now we'll be within a fraction. That's pretty darn good. Just double check. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I can widen it ever so slightly, but not much. There we go. That is how you throw a right side up lid. So this piece, there you go. All right, I hope that helps.